Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be providing a long-term market analysis update on Filecoin, which over the last few weeks has broken back above the 20-week simple moving average. On the chart, that is going to be this blue line, and what you'll notice is that this has been a very strong level of resistance throughout this entire bear market. Going back all the way to September of 2021, when Filecoin first initially lost this as support, it flipped it right into resistance. We had multiple rejections off of it. And then from there, Filecoin proceeded to roll over and then come back down, forming lower lows. And it did the same process multiple times, coming back again in March of 2022. Same pattern, rejecting off of it, coming back down for lower lows. And essentially, we have seen this level act as resistance for the entire bear market. And that really makes a significant marker of the most recent move because we have broken back above this level for the first time again since September of 2021. On top of that, we also have the 20-week moving average starting to round off here. It's no longer aggressively sloping downwards, and you can see that aggressive downward slope primarily from January up until September of last year. It was just one very consistent downtrend. You can see it was fairly linear, just averaging down every step of the way. And now we're starting to see that roll off again. And the reason is because 20 weeks ago, we were more or less at the same price. So we're just averaging closing prices at the same valuation. And that's why it's sort of flattened out here. And that really does illustrate that longer term momentum, which is beginning to shift here. Again, it's very different to what we've seen during the bear market with that very consistent downward slope. Instead, we're just sort of consolidating here. We've broken back above it. So ultimately, surrounding the 20-week simple moving average, there are a lot of positive signs on this chart. On top of that, we also reclaimed the level right around $4.70. Which was the previous range lows. You'll notice that was the support that we held on the first retest in June of 2022 on this big capitulation. That is where Filecoin found support, and it bounced off of this level right up into that 20-week simple moving average as resistance, came back down, retested it once again, and then had another rejection at the 20-week average, ultimately taking it down, breaking below the support, flipping it into resistance in November, and then ultimately coming back down to retest the all-time lows. When I zoom out here, Filecoin came all the way down to a local low of around $2.37, which was the same level that it had as support from back in the previous market cycle. So it basically just did a full trip back down, retracing this entire bull run to retest that bottom, and now we're coming back up, reclaiming some previous support. So it is positive to see that we have avoided that most bearish scenario, that most bearish case, which would be breaking below those all-time lows and actually having that price discovery to the downside. So the fact that we avoided that, bouncing off this level and holding it as support, is a positive look. Again, reclaiming some of these resistance levels is also more reassuring that we do have at least a different trend to this dominant downtrend that could potentially bring us into a couple months of going sideways and just accumulating. So for example, if we were to have, say, a few weeks just consolidating, holding this as support, that would definitely be the more positive outcome, because in that scenario, we would have that 20-week moving average fully start to round off here. And then from there, we could eventually reverse that momentum back to the upside and have the 20-week moving average working in our favor, like we saw in the last bull run, right? That's the region that we held as support more or less throughout this entire move up until the peak. When we lost it, it started to roll off and then came back down for downward sloping resistance. So that is essentially what I want to see here unfold with the weekly chart. I want to see Filecoin remain above the 20-week moving average, remain above this range low at $4.70. And if we were to say have a breakdown back below this, such as I have drawn, this would be the invalidation point where I would just look to a continuation of this downtrend. And the reason is because when you have moves that come back below, it ultimately looks like a fake out, where if there's really no progression to the upside or really no sustainable move reclaiming support, then it just becomes a bearish signal because it shows how bulls were essentially unable to have a strong reversal pattern. So that is what I'm going to be watching out for: consolidation or a move higher, really just sustaining the price action on the weekly candle closing prices above these 20-week moving average and $4.70 zone as support. So on the FIL Bitcoin ratio, we also saw a pretty similar thing happen, where we basically had a failed attempt at breaking down. We had the move coming back down to form a new all-time low on the FIL BTC ratio right here in December, but ultimately we have reclaimed that level. So we had this move coming back down, taking out the lows from the summer of 2022, but we didn't see any continuation to the downside. And you could look at this either as a deviation or some sort of double bottom. And right now we just want to see some follow through. So ideally, if we can have a continued bounce up to this previous zone of support right around 39,000 Satoshis. That was the support that we held in 2019. You can see we basically bottomed off of this zone on multiple retests. So I think at the very least, we could see that as our next target if we have more follow through off of this bottoming pattern. And that's where we could look to the first major sign of resistance, again, being the lows and the support from back in the previous market cycle on the FIL BTC ratio. So I hope you guys enjoy the content and analysis. By the way, make sure to check out my Twitter page. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.